I'm going to hand it over to Barbara, and she's going to talk about grants and finances and kind of where we are with the money stuff.
Okay. So we have just a quick note on money stuff. Good news. One of the really nice things that we got this year was we got a vote of appreciation from the grocery outlet people. As part of their opening, they gave us $1,500.
Wow.
And the really nice part about that is that it doesn't come with any dedicated strings. In other words, we can use that how we want it, and maybe for things that might not qualify for our city grant, because the city grant comes with a lot of restrictions. So that's $1,500, and we have some ideas on how to spend it, but we haven't fully figured that out. We do want to make sure that we have some things that we can point to and tell the grocery outlet people about and what that this is what we did with it. For the city grant, we just got the check in mail. The city's a little slow. The grant period started October 1st, but we just got the check last week. Effectively for 2020, and it's $5,000 again because of the Beautify SJ program. They used to give us around $1,600, but 3 years ago they decided that they wanted to encourage the neighborhoods to do more, and so it was raised to $5,000 as a maximum that you can apply for. And we're going to do a number of things with that grant. Some of them are up there. One is the native plant garden, which I'll talk about in a minute. It also will help pay, doesn't covers a little less than half of the cost of National Night Out. We also, as noted at the bottom, are going to have some barbecues in the park, and some of the grant money will go toward funding that. Yeah. So I was going to talk a little bit more about the native plant garden project and our work in the park. So just the park projects that we've had using grant money in 2018, we worked with our city forest and planted 10 trees in the park. So this was part of the planting process. The first year, we got sticks with a few little leaves at the top. But in 2019, the trees grew a good bit and leafed out nicely. And we've been working at maintaining them. Greg and Eric have, among others,
Thank you, Eric.
Watering the trees, especially in the summertime. They need less water now, but during the summer they will still need a little bit of help as they get established and establish the root systems. We also had an arborist for our city forest come out in the summer and look at the trees and help us figure out what maintenance they needed, and they gave us a plan for pruning the trees. And in January, we went out with, I think, Eric, was that your pruner? Yeah. He's a big pruning stick. And pruned the trees to make sure that they grow straight and safely and vigorously.
Brianna, that's
so
Brianna. Did you introduce Brianna in the picture? Brianna?
Oh, Brianna's in the picture.
Oh yeah, she's from our city forest.
Yeah, so another person from our city forest came out and helped us, went around with us as we did the pruning. So that's the tree project. The maintenance will continue in the sense that we'll have to keep an eye on them. There'll have to be more pruning probably after this growing season. The advice we got was not to take off too many branches because the trees need the energy they get from the leaves. So we'll do a little bit more pruning. and water them in the heat of the summer. So the next project, to be funded out of the 2020 grant, is a native plant garden. And this is kind of a barren patch of land currently in the park. It's not ideal in that it's part sun, part shade, but for native plants, we can work with that. What the advantage that particular plot has, two advantages. It has one, there isn't any grass cover on it currently, because there's no irrigation there now. So we don't have to get rid of grass. The other advantage is it's near the main irrigation pipe. And we've been working with park supervisor to find a place where we could set up drip irrigation, because that's really what the native plants want. They really don't want a lot of water sprinkled, they want a little water directed. So this is a place where we can set up that drip system. So this is the plan.
Where is that in the park? Is that along where the townhouses are?
Yeah, so that's the wall you see there is the wall of the townhouses, and the walkway at the front of the picture, that goes out to the street toward the plaza. And you're looking toward the tennis courts, they're way, way, way back.
And where are the trees? Where are the trees?
The trees are around the, we've planted 10 trees. They're, 5 of them, I think, are around the picnic area that's over by the school, by the chain link fence. Several of them are around the playground area, and a couple of them, 3 of them, I think, are near the tennis courts. And the catalpa tree that was picked because it grows fast and it gives good shade.
What is it called?
Catalpa. Catalpa
Speciosa.
speciosa is the technical name. They refer to it as northern catalpa, I think, but I
What's it native?
it's not a native plant here. It does well in heat and it's reasonably drought tolerant. It will get, the roots will ultimately get, because many of the trees are near turf. It'll get some water, as the turf gets watered. But it was based on the recommendation of our city forest as to what would work in the park situation. And then in just a week ago, I went out along with Ita Mona, who gave a presentation of her photographs at our last meeting. She is an avid bird photographer and animal photographer. So we were digging and to get soil samples, because I know what the soil in my garden will do, but I have no idea what this soil will do. And there's a little bit of a berm built up, and who knows where they got the dirt to fill that in. After digging, we do know it's clay. That's clear. But we want to get a chemical analysis to tell us what we need to add to it to make sure that the effort we make putting in all these plants doesn't fall flat because they aren't getting what we need. And then I just wanted to show you a couple of slides that are pictures of mature native plant plantings in a park. These are in Fontana Park. We visited a number of parks, and this one did the best job. The pictures were taken in January, so there's not much in flower. But once the plants fill in, you get a nice bank of vegetation, and most of the things will flower at some point in the year. Where we're dealing with a lot of shade, some of the more showy flowering plants want more sun, because it takes more energy for them to put out those flowers. So most of the plants will flower, but maybe not the big showy flowers. And this park, if anybody's interested in seeing it, it's Fontana Park. It's in Almaden, and it runs along the power lines. Yeah. And they have several kind of islands of native plants, some done by a neighborhood association, and some done by, they have more space. And some done by vendors. They have a nursery did one, Ginny did one, it's their land, or their easement. Anyway, that's all I have. We are going to need volunteers for this project. On March 29th, there's going to be a work day in the park where we're going to do preparing the ground for planting. So we're going to need people for that. And on an ongoing basis, there will be a need for people with an interest in plants and horticulture if they want to be involved. But we'll put out some notices.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, Barbara.
So a couple of other things that we have planned throughout the year. I'm just going to mention the MedCap Energy Center tours. We did 2 or 3 of those late last year. We're going to be resuming those probably this spring, and we'll be notifying people via the LPNA email list and next door.
It's a tour you don't want to miss. It's unbelievable.
It is very interesting, really
Yeah.
quite fascinating. And the
Yeah.
gentleman, what's his name that does the tours?
Terry?
Terry, he's just very knowledgeable and
Yeah.
has some interesting information about energy in general and kind of the state of energy in the area in California. So then we also will be doing our National Night Out, which is the second Tuesday of August. We do that. This will be our 5th, I think our 5th annual one. And it seems to get bigger and better every year, so we're working on that event.
First Tuesday.
August 4th. August 4th, thank you. Thanks for that. Did I say second?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't even. I said first. I mean, I wrote first. I don't know why I said second. Then the holiday event. So around the holidays, there was a gentleman that lived in our neighborhood, and he was trying to kind of bring the Willow Glen thing to our neighborhood by selling the little Christmas trees put in people's front yards. And so he left the neighborhood recently, and so we were carrying that on. We took over selling some Christmas trees. We also bring Santa in. We have cookies and hot chocolate, and the firemen come with a fire truck. So it's a nice little neighborhood event, and gives people the opportunity to meet their neighbors and mingle and things like that. That is usually the first Saturday of December, historically, so keep that in mind. And again, we'll be putting out reminders about these events. So I'm going to go on to other updates. We have Captain Elle Washburn, who is our new precinct captain. And she's going to give us an update on crime stats, Palms Camera Project.
Good evening. So Captain Elle Washburn, I'm your newly minted captain in the Southern Division. So as most of you probably know, the city of San Jose, which is about 1.1 million people, over 181 square miles, is divided into 4 divisions. I have the Southern Division, so I'm responsible for about a quarter of the souls in the city of San Jose. We went to a D7 community meeting last night with the chief of police, and he referred to us as mini chiefs of police. And then I pointed out that he referred to me as Minnie, and I take it personally. He's like, I didn't call you Minnie, and everybody's like, yeah, you did, chief. But I'll own that. I'm just a really big person trapped in a tiny person's body, so that's okay. A little bit about myself. I was born in downtown San Jose, and I grew up just north of the border in Milpitas, and my family is still there. But really, I like to say I grew up in San Jose Police Department. I started in 1994 as a dispatcher, and I've been a police officer for about 21 years now, approaching 21 years. So I was just promoted about a week and a half ago to captain. My temporary badge number. The promotional ceremony actually is going to be tomorrow, so I'm really excited for that. There's only 9 captains in the San Jose Police Department, so the higher you go, the fewer they are, and the harder it is to get up to that next rung on the ladder. So I'm extremely honored. I had a lieutenant came to me, Jason Herr, for those of you that met Lieutenant Herr, and he says, I'm really excited to be working for you. And I looked at him, I said, no, Jason, I'm excited to be working for you. He looked at me and he says, well said, he just walked out of the door. But, and I've known Jason for a long time. I mean, that's the advantage of being in the department for a long time, is I know a lot of people. I just came out of special operations. I think I was the first female in special ops as a commander. And I oversaw half the unit. So that was the narcotics team, the gang enforcement team, which is called VSET, or Violent Crime Enforcement Team, the DEA task force, and then we stood up the street crime unit. We brought that back. in November of '98, and they're the ones that go out and deal with the criminal element as it relates to homeless encampments in San Jose. So we don't police, right, homelessness, it's not a crime, but the criminal element, we do look at that within those encampments, and we do address those issues, right? We want to make the community safe for its residents, whether they be housed or unhoused. So there's a lot of crime as it relates to homeless encampments. So switching gears a little bit to talk about the southern, and actually the last thing I'll say is, having come from special ops, right, my goal is to leverage that social capital, right? So I'm already, it's like drinking out of a fire hose right now. I'm learning a lot about Southern Division. The last time I worked out here was a brand new officer. It was really the north part, and I was really kind of focusing on narcotics and gang enforcement as a baby officer way back when. So it's great to be coming back and kind of being responsible for the whole division. But we're already starting to identify some of the problem areas and making those phone calls. Like I said, leveraging that social capital. I've got street crimes going out to Monterey and random on the homeless encampment. I think there was a fire on Sunday in some of the other drug nuisance houses, and turning that over to Metro. So for all it's worth, I'm going to continue to leverage that and use that to our advantage in the Southern Division. So switching gears a little bit to priorities. Those of you that listen to Eddie Garcia, and I worked for him when he was a brand new sergeant out here in the Southern Division on midnights, a very long time ago. He hasn't changed. He's still very, very high energy. He will tell you we have two priorities in the city of San Jose, right? And very simply stated, it's to put people in jail, people that deserve to be in jail, right? And build trust, okay? And so the fancy way of saying that, you might have heard him say, is that proactive policing, right, and constitutional policing are not mutually exclusive. We could do both. And that's what we do really well in the San Jose Police Department. You'll get other large cities, they're having really high crime spikes. Some of our crimes, and we'll talk a little bit about specifics as it relates to your neighborhood. Things go up, things go down, but we are seeing kind of a downward trend on some of the crimes here in Southern Division. But generally speaking, really it's to affect aggravated assaults, right, illegal weapons, getting the guns off the streets and things like that. So we're really trying to train our police officers to be very proactive, which is the legacy of the San Jose Police Department, right, and to use their proactive patrol time to address the problems, whether it's violent crime or property crime. Just depends on the division, and we'll talk about our 3 priorities in a minute. An interesting note, and we knew we were eventually going to get here, over half of our department has less than 5 years on. We're an extremely young department. We have, I went to midnight briefing last week on my first week, and there's the front row. The first 2 rows are all filled with like baby police officers, right? and I stood up there and I said, how many of you were born after 1994? And I'm looking at them and I got 3 hands that came up. I said, I don't know why I do that to myself. These children wearing this uniform were born after I started the San Jose Police Department. I'm not going to tell you how old I was when I started. I'm going to see you, her doing the math back there. It's not okay. But my point is, it's a very young department. And so there's a lot of energy going into raising them right, training them how to do things the San Jose way, right? Which is being proactive and also being professional and keeping those standards extremely high. We've never softened our standards. And so that's just kind of a little bit of context and backstory for what's going on in the San Jose Police Department right now and the challenges that we're facing in the training unit. Recruiting's better, right? And just the academies in general. We are seeing more diversity in our academies. We had over 20 different nationalities, probably as many languages in the last academy that just started. I think we have one that started this week. A lot more women coming through. For a while, as far as mid to large agencies, we had really low numbers in female staffing. So it's really great to have female deputy chief, female commanders now, or female captains, female lieutenants, because we want those younger officers to be able to identify, right, with people in the department, and we also want the community to be able to identify with their officers. So those are the chief's priorities. Now I will tell you for the Southern Division, right, I have to report out in a divisional meeting in a couple weeks to the chief. And in the Southern Division, actually I'll use my phone, we have 3 priorities, okay? The first one is to reduce the number of aggravated assaults. Now aggravated assaults are, sometimes they involve weapons, right? Firearms and non-firearms. That also includes robberies, things of that nature. Not necessarily simple assaults, right? We're looking at the aggravated assaults. So that's number 1. Number 2 is the burglaries, whether it's auto theft, residential burglary, certainly if there's any business, commercial burglaries, as well as the auto burg, right? People either stealing your car or stealing the stuff out of your car. We're going to talk about some of the public safety announcements that the department is kind of pushing out right now to help you safeguard your things. So the third priority, I kind of tweaked it just a little and rebranded it, right, in just my short time in my new position. But our third priority, right, and I feel it's aligned with the chief's priority, that's community engagement. It is community engagement. And, you know, that looks different for each division. That looks different for each community. And what is community engagement, right? It's this. It's what we're doing right now. So I feel, and this might be a bit controversial, right? A lot of people want to see more police, and we want more police too. We want to keep the enforcement up, right? We feel safer. We're able to do more. And we also get to a point where there's almost a sense of diminishing return, right? I feel that if this is really community policing, right? Grassroots, this is what this is, community policing. By working together, what's going to end up happening is what we can do together, it's synergy, right? That's going to be greater than the sum of our individual parts. You're doing your thing, you're doing your thing, I'm over here doing my thing, but if we actually do it together, right, and we start working and networking and figuring out where the resources are, right, what we can do together is going to be much greater. So last night at a community meeting, I described myself as the, help me out here, charades, the conductor. Thank you. Okay, sounds like, no. I think of myself as the conductor, right? And my symphony, right, is you all, as well as last night we had community service officer. We did some breakout sessions in an area that really needs engagement. They don't have the neighborhood association set up. So we had community officers, we had some officers, a sergeant, crime prevention was there. So, you know, they're part of that orchestra also, right? And it's my job to work with your neighborhood leaders to help kind of navigate some of these things. So a couple of things I brought tonight was a resource card. It's great, it's perfect for hanging on the fridge. It's got all those important phone numbers. For example, in your next meeting, if you want to have somebody come talk about topic A, call crime prevention. Every different crime prevention specialist has different specialties. Right now, February is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. So they're doing some of that in schools. We also go into the schools and do a lot of training there. So it's just a matter of reaching out and coordinating. We have an amazing team in the Southern Division. We have Jorge, Rebecca, and Marina. And I'll tell you what, Jorge is the ice cream truck guy. Okay, so when we want to have an event that maybe is involving, you know, kids or something like that, if we plan it far enough in advance and the chief doesn't already have it promised somewhere, we get the ice cream truck out. Okay? That's a lot of fun. I don't know if you've seen pictures of it on our social media page, but it's great. We actually have the officers pass out ice cream, so it's a lot of fun. So crime prevention is a really great resource. There's a number of other resources, the homeless coordinator, and maybe some of this will come out if there is time for a little bit of Q&A. So what I'm saying is there's a lot of resources available to you depending on what some of the challenges are. I am getting out into each neighborhood trying to figure out what the nuances are to your specific neighborhood. So what I can tell you, based on the map that Greg gave me, looking at your neighborhoods, is I did look at some of the statistics within those boundaries of the Los Paseos, Avenida España, and Metcalf area, all within that red line. So I looked at I didn't go back to the full quarter. I did November, December, and January. I felt like it's kind of relevant and new. And so what I did for the month of November, of just this last November in 2019, we had a total of 8 reported incidents. These are actually documented cases. And of those 8, the highest that we had were actually 6 auto theft. So that's 6 different cars that were stolen, 1 grand theft and 1 petty theft, for a total of 8 reported incidences. And most of those were down. So the auto thefts predominantly were like the 6100 block of Monterey Road and the Avenida Rotella Street. I did go in there also before I came tonight to see if anybody was on parole for burglary. I didn't see anybody. So I was like, there's a correlation there. Couldn't find the correlation. This time last year, or that in November of last year, we had 7. So it went down 1. But still the numbers, they are what they are. You know, 20%. All things relative. 7 is a lot. When you live in this neighborhood, when you compare it to other parts of the city, it looks pretty good. But I'll just tell you we have 7, and we'll kind of leave the interpretation to you all. What I can also say for the month of November, we had 8 reported incidents. As I mentioned, we had 18 proactive police type of events or incidents. So I don't have my glasses. What that looks like is community policing, foot patrol, community policing school events, premise checks, follow-ups. So anything where an officer is going out, in addition to calls for service, this is not 911 CAT events, right? This is just officers being proactive in your immediate neighborhood, 18 of those. You could always have more. And I think it's just a matter of tip of the spear, right? Identifying, so it's my job to not only look at the stats, but try to interpret what they are. Where are they happening? What day of the week are they happening? Why might they be happening? Is there anything else that you all can do to prevent them from happening? For example, and I'm not saying this is this neighborhood, I put this out to all groups. Don't do warm-ups in the morning. Don't start your car, go in, get your coffee out of the microwave. Your car's gonna be gone when you come out, even if you live in a nice neighborhood. It's just not good practice, right? Just like we wear our seatbelts, we don't think we're gonna get in you don't need your seatbelt till you need it. So please don't do warm-ups. That's November. December, slightly slower month. We had a total of 6 reported incidents in your neighborhood. A little more variety. We had 2 burglaries. One of them was from a car, less than $950 taken, or greater than, so that's a grand theft. The other one was a residential burglary with no force, which I didn't pull the report up and read it, but that's just to make sure you guys are locking your doors and windows. Right, so forced entry is obvious, kicking, breaking of a window. If there's no force, it's a bit inferred that something may have been unlocked. So 2 burglaries, as I mentioned, 1 petty theft, 1 grand theft, and 2 auto thefts. So we did have 2 cars stolen. The burglaries happened in the Avenida España and Via Ramada corridor. Same month last year, December of 18, we had 10 incidences, so it went down just a little bit. Proactively, officers generated 36 different events happening. So in the month of December, from 18 to, they doubled it, 36. So that's pretty good. Higher police presence, maybe that's the correlation to reduced incidences. It's kind of hard to say, right? Correlation and causation are 2 different things. As we know, those of us that studied economics and statistics.
Now,
Right.
when
Yes.
you did that for November and December last year.
I did November, December this year, and then I compared it to last year.
Okay,
Total
so
number.
the lag time now that you are on, is somebody else gonna be able to get that information to you quicker? Or is there still gonna be that lag?
I can go into the Crime View dashboard and put whatever search parameters that I want. I think it goes back several years.
So basically you can do it yourself?
I can do it myself, yeah. I also, if I need help, if it's complex and I need more interpretation, we have crime analysis unit. I get in there, I have an analyst, thank gosh, assigned to me now, right? That's something they just started doing and I can go to her. She has other responsibilities, but yes, I have an analyst that can help me, which is really nice. When we start looking really at specific problems and kind of nuanced problems and how to address those, because I certainly am not a statistician. So in January of this year, we had 2.
Wow.
I guess pretty good. 1 auto theft and 1 complaint submitted to the district attorney's office for review on somebody under the influence of drugs. It was a resident, so I can't put that out. So 1 auto theft, 1 narcotics case. January of last year, we had 9, so it went from 9 to 2. It's pretty good. We had 18 proactive events by officers. The auto theft was Avenida Rotella in the Monterey Burnell corridor. So the Avenida neighborhood seems pretty hot to me, is what I started discovering in looking at the stats.
Can I ask a question? You mentioned earlier, like, okay, so there's 8 and you'll leave the interpretation to us. But I think what would be helpful is for people to get an idea. Because I think there's a discrepancy on whether our neighborhood is safe or not. And when you just hear 8 and you don't know what that is compared to other neighborhoods around. And so, maybe next time we have you out.
I would need to know what that point of reference is.
You mean what neighborhood we're talking about, and specifically more?
I mean, compared to the city, you have very low crime.
Well, let's
Your
say
neighborhood,
compared to the
but-
rest of the Southern Division.
There are parts of the Southern Division that have hot spots. This is not one of them. Hillcap area, Hoffman Via Monte, it's a Project Hope area, Round Table 7 Trees, where they're actually gang hot spots.
Yeah.
A lot more crime. I will tell you that a lot of it goes unreported. That was the purpose of last night's meeting, because the highest number of reported incidences in those neighborhoods was auto theft. So people aren't reporting crime at all. They're not even picking up the phone. They are calling the police when their car's missing in the mornings. They gotta go to work.
Yeah.
But beyond that, it's like, why aren't you reporting the gang rape? Why aren't you reporting the shots fired? So that's what I mean by, I'll leave that to interpretation. It's my job to help you interpret the statistics. I'm new here too, so I need to build that context along with you. I think we can kind of talk anecdotally. We might get a little into the weeds when we start comparing your neighborhood to this neighborhood and that neighborhood, we start pulling all the stats.
Yeah.
I think what's important is, the point is there's crime.
Yeah.
We look at the crime, we look at the trends, and we figure out how to address that crime. Because any crime is still crime, and it affects your quality of life, and it affects your safety, your comfort, and your perceived comfort in your neighborhoods, right? Because I don't just do my job to make it safer for you. I want your perceived safety to also be present, if that makes sense, right? Because sometimes the perception is also reality for you. If you're afraid to do something in your neighborhood, well, just because the crime hasn't, sometimes, yes, we need to temper that, right? But I think there's the both and, right? There's that happy medium,
So on this one that you said, someone under the influence, it was in January. I was watching the news one night and there's a big noise that I thought was on the corner between me and the fire station. I thought somebody had an accident. And then the next thing you know, there's another thump, and then there's helicopters, and then there's noise, and then they block off the end of my street.
They were
And my
probably
son-
chasing somebody that fled from the
Yeah, well
officer.
then, so that is all, they're looking for somebody at the end of my street down Aventina Rotel.
Okay,
Like you said, would that be this one?
probably not.
Someone-
I wouldn't be able to tell you, but a misdemeanor under the influence out of a house, probably not. They're not gonna commit those types of resources for
So
a
who would they be
misdemeanor charge.
looking for if they had spotlight?
I couldn't tell you. If, generally speaking, if we're using a helicopter, it's for somebody that is considered wanted and or violent. So it could have been that they were being surveilled by a special operations unit, they went to stop the car, the guy fled on foot, they set a perimeter, they used a helicopter, they contained him, they arrested him, and he's gone. This is reported incidences, this wouldn't, that proactive wouldn't be reported here.
I see.
Yeah, this is not all police activity, this is specific to what type of, we call them GEOs, general offense reports, were documented.
That
You
would be-
call in, you report a crime, we document the crime, that's what I'm reporting on here, not all police activity. The last stat that I have as it relates to crime in general, I did pull your call activity. So in CAD, right, when you call the police department, it generates an emergency or a non-emergency call, right, to the police department. That is the computer-aided dispatch. It's not necessarily a police report, but it does go into the system and it has a generated number. When I looked at priority 1s, 2s, and 3s, so priority 1 would be like, there's a fight in front of my house involving a weapon. Priority 2 might be, there's a suspicious person trying door handles, or there's a car and somebody's casing my neighborhood. It's very specific activity. That could be a priority 2, or a fight not involving weapons. And a priority 3 is, I hear loud music, or there's, more of a nuisance or quality of life reported crime. Maybe there's somebody smoking pot at the park. So priority 1, 2, and 3 for the same time frame, November, December, January, we had 202 reported incidences. So if you look at our actual documented stuff, right, it's relatively low in comparison to how many times you pick up the phone. So over half of those are kind of non-enforcement related. What I mean is family disturbances, or some of the other things that I kind of looked at. They aren't things that really were kind of police issues. Civil standby, attempt to contact, which is like police go out and they check the status of the car, or something kind of more civil in nature. So it's good, right? We want people reporting stuff because we never know when those calls that come in might actually be a reported crime. And then sometimes that reported crime goes and it becomes an investigation. It goes over to the bureau, right? And it becomes an actual police case. So the ones that were of the 202, roughly half were kind of something that was police responsibility or police business. Those were suspicious people, suspicious cars, speeding in my neighborhood. Those are the types of things that were being reported that we came out on that maybe didn't result in a report, right? But it's still, again, the community calling us for help, us coming out, doing something about it. It just maybe didn't become a police report, right? So it's still police response for you and the problems in your neighborhood. Again, it just didn't result in a police report. In response to these crimes, again, 6th day on the job, this is what I've discovered so far. We do have a number of patrol checks in Los Paseos Park and the Los Paseos area. I think I specifically requested some recently. Other resources, we have overtime cars. So I was given some money to spend in the division. I am spending, different areas, but as it relates to you, I have a roving burglary suppression car. They're usually out on Thursdays and Fridays. They do get the information for crime analysis to figure out what's timely, and they'll go out and just do added enforcement. So whether it's a lot of times, so a lot of our burglaries happen, at least in my division, not necessarily your neighborhood, like part of the Willow Glen neighborhood and then the southern part, right? Because people know people go to work and they're leaving their houses empty when they go to work. And so those are the areas where we have those residential burglaries. A lot of the car break-ins usually happen during nighttime. So you have to kind of look at when is the crime happening. Well, those burglary suppression cars, again on Thursdays and Fridays, are out kind of addressing some of those issues, and they're being proactive. So they're making car stops, pedestrian stops. Their sole purpose is to make arrests as it relates. Next week, I'm gonna get together with the lieutenant in the burglary unit. He's newly assigned, much like me, but I think we need to get together and put our heads together because of the different crimes that we address in Southern. I do think we have a burglary problem. If you look, burglary's down. I just looked at my divisional report. I want to say it is like 20% from last year, but we still have 283 burglaries in my division. We have the highest number of burglaries in all 4 divisions. When I look at where they're happening outside of my little hotspots that I expect them to be, like Hill Cap and the gang neighborhoods, it's a moving target. And so it's a little bit of a quandary. What I can say is this is where we get into, well, what can I do, Captain Washburn, to help with these things? So one of the things we have, and we left some flyers in the back, Crime Prevention has a new campaign. It's called Remove It or Lose It. It's kind of a neat little, there's some tips on here. I'm gonna tell you the most interesting one. So it's kind of like a click it or ticket, right? We kind of modeled it after that. It's called Remove It or Lose It. So what this means is, especially at Christmas time, but it still happens, do not leave a phone, an iPad, or a computer in your car, right? A lot of people think, well, I'm gonna put it in the trunk, no one's gonna see it. They're gonna find it because they're capturing your Bluetooth signal. They have a device, they're gonna drive real slow in a parking lot, and they're boop, 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 that car has a Mac in it. They're gonna pop your window, or break your window, pop your trunk, grab it out, and go.
Wow.
So what's your devices, if you leave them in the trunk of your car, or covered under a jacket, no one can see it. I'm sorry, I'm guilty of that too sometimes. Put it in airplane mode. If it's in airplane mode, the signal's not going out. It basically silences that signal. Because they will capture that signal, whether they do it with a cell phone or another device, and they're gonna know where those devices are hidden. Christmas time, they went to some shopping centers and they'd get, especially at Christmas time, 12 or 20 computers in an hour. A lot of people are buying Macs for Christmas, put them in their car. Everybody has a computer. And everybody leaves it, turned on. So there's some really good tips here, right? How do we reduce stolen cars? Don't do warm-ups, right? That's maybe increase your lighting, right? How do we reduce the auto theft or the likelihood maybe? Sometimes it's just gonna happen. But if there's anything we can do to help mitigate that, this is one area. I think the other thing we already talked about was the resource card, overtime cars. Oh, the last thing I'm gonna talk about is leveraging technology. So, we have a new partnership with Ring Technology, the doorbell. I just saw something in the news that there might have been a glitch or something going on with that, but I will still tell you it is very good video. There's a free app through the Ring Technology, it's called Neighbors something. But if you go online and you research or Google Ring Technology, police partnership, there's an app that you can get where the police department can access that information. If you have a home security system, you go buy a bundle at Costco and you install it, register it with our camera registry, and I think maybe the city manager's office may talk a little bit about that. A lot of people may say, well, that's great, but isn't that just being reactive? Right? How is that going to help prevent the crime in my house? What I can tell you is this. It may help prevent the crime at the next house, or if somebody else has a camera, it might prevent the burglary that's going to happen at your house. I know for a fact that the burglary unit oftentimes, because we'll go out, we'll see who has cameras, we get all the footage, they start piecing it together, and we start noticing there's a string of burglaries, different cameras are picking up different angles, and we're getting pictures of people. You get one print here and a good photo there, we're able to do photo lineups, and we can start piecing these cases together, and I know they have solved crimes. And sometimes you have a prolific burglar, right, that's doing that. I will tell you, most of these are juveniles. Sometimes they're gang related. You occasionally get an adult that is doing it, but a lot of the burglary crews are oftentimes juveniles. So the technology, I think, is extremely important. I know there's different options and avenues when it comes to technology, right? But probably the better technology is You know, whether you have access to something like that or have the ability to access something like that. I know the camera project you asked me to speak to,
Yeah.
that's not something that we manage out of the police department, nor is the camera registry. It is something that we use and something that we leverage and can have access to. Our community service officers may come out if we know you have a camera, get that footage, right? They'll extract that, put it on a thumb drive, and we have some amazing forensic analysts at the police department that can piece that together. And I don't want to bring up kind of a macabre subject, but it's almost 1 year ago today that Bambi Larson was murdered in her home. I can tell you that that case was made on residential video surveillance. They went to the neighborhood and checked every house, and anybody that had footage, they extracted that footage, and our forensic analysts, a lot of times the stuff we have in the police department is not like TV, you know, you see X-Files or you see these stuff and it looks really high tech. No, we're really kind of analog still, but we're getting there, right? This person is the closest thing you have to what they can do on TV. Her name is Courtney. She's amazing, and she was the one that took all that footage, enhanced it, pieced together a timeline, and you can see the suspect kind of walking in, going in, and walking out. And that case really was, you know, it helped to solve that case based on the video surveillance. We were able to apprehend that suspect. I was part of that operation, and you know that felt really good to do that, so that person's not on the streets to hurt anybody else. So for what it's worth, it may seem reactive, but I think of it as a proactive measure. So if you're considering that or you have other options and access to video surveillance, I highly recommend it. I can't say enough good things about it.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, with that I'm done. So you guys have all kinds of questions.
So my camera system is registered, and both times the police department has needed my footage was because it happened at my residence.
Oh.
But how long would it take a community service officer to ask for my registered footage? Because some of my cameras have 5-day storage, some have 10-day storage, and that's one of the reasons why I want to know, should I have 10-day storage on
Good
everything,
question.
or?
I think it just depends on the crime, and it depends when the police department becomes aware of it. So if you come home, you've been gone on a business trip for a day or two, and your house was burgled, and you have some footage, obviously you're going to be calling the police department and saying in that conversation, you know, I've already been in my house. I do not believe there's a suspect here. However, I have some snapshots or videos so I can get some stills. I have video surveillance. I'd like the police department to come collect it. They will have a community service officer come out. They generate a call right then and there, and they'd come out. So it's not like an investigator coming from the bureau having to make a phone call and set an appointment. We actually have community service officers within the beat structure assigned to every district in the city.
So if something happened in the neighborhood, let's say there was a hit and run accident with an injury, and they passed by my house, what would be my expectation of having someone come and say, hey, can I have your camera footage? Would that be a couple
Almost
days?
every substantial crime scene, I can't say, you know, every scene, but every whether it's a use of force, a fatal, significant injury, an assault, we do what we call a canvass. A canvass means that there's an officer specifically assigned to walk around, look for eyewitnesses, look for video surveillance, right, and look for evidence that might be left that can be collected. So one of the things they're doing is canvassing for video. We'll actually go up, knock on the doors. Hi, I noticed you have a camera, XYZ. Can you look at it? Is there something I can get? And even if we can't extract it, that may be someone's house sitting. They don't know how to do it. We're going to get some contact information and figure out how we can do that and follow up. So it's just going to depend on the situation, but typically a canvass is part of our normal course of investigation.
Hi, on Via Serena, right?
Via Serena?
Right here, remember Mr. Bibby, the little island, right across from Jack in the Box. There's a little island on the road, right?
Okay.
And it started about 5 years ago. And it's getting progressively worse. We got people panhandling on that thin little island.
Yeah.
And my question is that legal? I mean, why? And if it is, why? I mean, that's be a
So
dangerous
it's funny,
phenomenon
somebody
of
asked the chief about this last night in a different part of the city. I believe there is a muni code. I'm not a muni code specialist. I do believe there's a muni code prohibiting that. I do not know off the top of my head if it needs to be posted, but there are some areas where it's been a problem, and they've actually had a sign that says no panhandling. And to try to paraphrase what the chief said last night, while that is an issue, he says if there are other crimes that the officers should or could be responding to, he'd rather have his officers deal with those.
Well, it's ongoing.
some of
There's
these
something,
nuisances.
so I guess there's something we could do as a neighborhood to put signs or maybe put a fence because it's getting to be a real problem.
And I think certainly if it's a situation where it becomes a safety issue because now they're walking in the street, we want to kind of,
Well, that thing is only
Be aware of
like,
that,
these
right.
really narrow, these guys are really, some guys are like, we have a guy named Sean that always
yeah.
in there and we got to the
And I think as
line.
long as he's getting money, they're probably gonna keep coming back. So as far as the, and I'm sure the council member's office can speak to that, but when
Okay.
it starts coming to, lighting, infrastructure, signage, things where we're talking about re-engineering something, that is
Okay.
definitely gonna be something that you would have that conversation with your council person's office and
Okay.
see whether or not they have the funding for that. If there's a law in the book, we're the ones to enforce that, right? And this is what we do though, like I said, I'm the conductor. If I don't have the resources, I'm gonna whooshaw you to somebody who does.
Well, just
And
let
I
you know
think
that,
that's definitely,
that seems like a safety hazard for
I'm sure it is,
for
yeah.
the motorists
If I-
and the
if I-
person who's staying in that little skinny island right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, Bert?
Okay, so yellow district, so they know they're in yellow district. Here goes Morgan Hill all the way up to where?
Oh, all right. You
Because,
didn't
I
say
mean,
you were gonna give me
you have 5
geographic
officers.
quizzes,
You
but.
have 5 officers. This year you had 4
Oh, yeah,
officers.
So every district, back in the day when I was young, we had like 8 per
Yeah.
team. We have 4 or 5. Yellow is the biggest district geographically speaking in the city of San Jose. This is council districts, but. So is that. District yellow is really, really big.
Okay.
2, I'm gonna laminate a map, hold on. Well, yeah, I mean, that's the council district, right here, District 2. But if you're talking about San Jose Beach,
Yeah, what's he doing?
so, well, but I'm trying to, like, council boundaries are not the same as police boundaries, and that's one of the challenges. I have 4 council members in my one division that I have to, not deal with, but partner with, put me on the spot here. So we have 5 different beats in District Yellow, and this is beat yellow 5. You see this big brown blob? That is one beat. See this little tiny square in the center? You can't even make out because it's smaller than my fingernail, right? That's a beat.
Wow.
So what we're looking at geographically is this huge expanse, and that has to do with density, right? When they came up with these police boundaries, right? The census, that's why the census is important. It has to do with density, it has to do with population, it has to do with types of crime, and then how many officers they need. Because you might have 5 officers for a beat or a district this big, and we're gonna have 5 officers for District Yellow, which is the size of a small town or bigger, right? So yes, we are spread out. We are getting more officers, right? What the chief tells you, and it's true. We are growing.
So with all this high density housing that's being built here, you don't see any increase at all?
It's kind of like it's never on par. You're gonna have absolutely, right? You're gonna have housing. Same thing in my community, in Santa Cruz County. You're gonna have the housing that comes up long before the infrastructure catches up, right? Because they want to develop homes, sell more homes. What about schools? What about hospitals? What about roads? What about impact? What about police, fire? Those never are aligned. So to answer your question, likely when, never when you need them. We're always going to be behind, right? And that's just kind of the reality of things. So that's happening, I think, socioeconomically in this part of the state everywhere, the high density housing. And that's why it's more important than ever, right, that we educate ourselves. So I'm going to steal from, no, this is D2, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Okay, good. So if you go on, I think it was D2, yes, I said it on the first night. If you go on the website, the council members' priorities, right, is to educate, empower, and what's the other E? Engage. Yeah. So I steal that all the time, and I think that's extremely important. That's kind of what we're doing, right? Because, like I said, that point of diminishing return, I can't do it all, right? Not in District Yellow, not as big as it is. Right? You, my eyes, my ears, you're all deputized as police officers. Right? I need you reporting crime.
You have no
I need
idea
you
what
this
you do.
information. Proactive, right? And reporting this stuff. So with that, I'm gonna stop talking.
Yeah, we're kind of behind,
Yeah,
so.
we're behind. I'm gonna stop talking.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, so next we're gonna have Vanessa come up for a D2 update, and then we'll get into our presentation on the, I'm gonna stay for the D2 update.
Applause. So Greg sent me a list of things that he would like me to update you all on. I'll run through and then we'll, if you have any questions for me at the end. So homelessness, I know that is The unsheltered population in San Jose is a huge problem. Just last council meeting, which was Tuesday, February 11th, I don't know why I said November, the council approved a approximately $24 million expenditure. We will be getting a $24 million grant from the state of California for homeless housing assistance and homeless prevention. That money is going to go to the creation of a navigation center, which is basically a large navigation center is a shelter, but with 24-hour service. So it's somewhere where people can live 24 hours. It's not your traditional shelter where you check in at night and have to leave in the morning. And they have wraparound services that connect people to housing, mental health, healthcare, whatever needs that they have. And also, we are thinking about providing storage at those facilities for the people who are currently staying there, but also for other folks that are unsheltered, so that we don't see so many shopping carts on our streets. That's the biggest investment of that $24 million. There will also be a significant investment in continuing some of our current unsheltered programs, like our safe parking program that we have at Southside, which has actually been extremely successful. We haven't had any community concerns or complaints about the location, and we've been able to house every night at least 20 to 24 people in a safe location where they're being connected to services. Also continuing with bridge housing communities. Currently have 2 communities that have been developed. One of them is open, one of them is still under construction, but those will each have 40 homes that will house individuals or couples. Also continuing with our homeless prevention programs, which are basically rental assistance programs and connections to other services to keep people from becoming homeless, which is a huge problem. Not only are we seeing that we have a large unsheltered population, but as we begin to shelter people into permanent housing, more people are losing their housing. So it's really important to have a balance of prevention, interim relief, and permanent solutions. Go help her. We should be seeing that money later in the year. And for as far as the navigation center goes, there have been very successful navigation centers in other cities, in San Diego in particular. And we will undergo a very thorough community process to figure out where that shelter is going to go, what services are going to be offered there, what community input we get in terms of who the operational organization is that manages it, how we work with the county to provide those services. So it's still there's still a lot of community effort and community outreach that will happen on these expenditures. Another thing is that we are currently in the priority setting process. So this is an annual process in which the City Council sets the policy priorities for the coming fiscal year. Councilmember Jimenez has put forward a few proposals, one of which is related to homelessness. He's asking the planning department to revisit our zoning code and to eliminate any arbitrary restrictions that make it more difficult to implement emergency shelter or temporary housing. So currently right now our zoning code has some glitches in it that makes it very hard. For example, we had a shelter that wanted to add 50 beds to a current location that they're already serving people at. And they had to go through loops and bounds and get conditional use permits and other things to be able to add those beds. And so what we want to do is we want to eliminate those restrictions and those arbitrary barriers and allow for emergency and temporary shelter to be a by right in certain areas.
Bravo.
So that's going to be on our priority setting for next Tuesday. Also next Tuesday, council members bringing forth a policy recommendation to look at the cost of development. Basically figure out how we can make affordable housing and housing development easier, but without giving away tax breaks and lowering fees for developers. We're also looking at something that was brought to us by a community member, putting forth a policy towards equity in sports rentals, so sports facility rentals. So we know that it's a huge problem. You have big for-profit leagues from Cupertino and Sunnyvale coming in and renting our San Jose public fields, and then our local kids don't have anywhere to play. So the council member wants to revisit this policy and put in a policy that prioritizes leagues that focus on nonprofit services, low-income kids, and local San Jose kids. We're also putting forth a change to a hospitality service charge. Last year, I don't know if you saw the article about there are some restaurants and some hospitality businesses that charge a service charge, and then they use that service charge to pay their servers and at times or often end up paying them less than minimum wage. And so it's very unfair. It creates a convoluted system where workers don't even know exactly where their salaries come from or how much they're going to get paid for a certain shift. And so we want to make it explicitly illegal in San Jose. If you have a service charge, the full service charge goes to the hospitality worker that provides the service, and that you cannot use that service charge to subsidize someone's salary. We're also working with CARE and the ACLU to bring forth a surveillance technology ordinance, which basically would just create transparency if the city ever wants to put in cameras, buy a drone, put license plate readers on garbage trucks, as they were talking to do a long time ago, that there would be an open and transparent process so the community would know what type of surveillance they will be conducting and what type of information will be collected. And then lastly, we're putting forth again this year, we tried last year, didn't get it through priority setting, that we're not giving up, is a revision to our traffic calming policies. So currently right now, if you see speeding on your street and you feel that you need a stop sign or that you need speed bumps, the city threshold for what streets qualify is extremely onerous. And it basically leaves a lot of our residential streets that do have speeding and reckless driving on them outside of the ability of obtaining traffic calming measures such as road diets, speed bumps, the modified crosswalks that are bigger and have more lighting. And so what we want to do is we want to revisit that policy and put policies in place that are actually more reflective of what's actually happening on our residential streets, in particular in areas around community centers and parks. We will be sending out an informational statement of sorts tomorrow with a list of the items that we're putting forth and a link to all the items that are coming collectively to council next Tuesday. It's over 40 different policy items. And in order for those policy items to be enacted, you have to have 6 votes. So if you're interested in supporting one, we'd really appreciate it if you come out on Tuesday, say, I really want this, I really think you should support this. Or you can send an email to council to let them know which items you feel are worthy of them voting for and moving forth. The Los Paseos shade structure. I know that some of you may not be happy with this update that I have, in particular Herb, but it's the latest information that I have from Public Works. So through the participatory budgeting project that we put through in 2017, one of the projects that won and that was funded was shade structures at Los Paseos and at Metcalf. It has been 2.5 going on 3 years in the making, and we've been fighting for this shade structure for a very long time. There were some delays in PRNS at first, related to some health concerns to the person who was working on the project. And then there were some more delays in PRNS relating to some other staffing issues. Now the project is at Public Works, not the Parks Department, but they are having some issues with the engineering of the shade structures. So the latest update is that a notice will go out to bidders, so a request for a proposal, an RFP, will go out to bidders next month, March of 2020. And then they will award the final contract in April or May of 2020, and construction will begin in May of 2020 with completed construction by July or August of this year. So we're hoping the shade structures are in by this summer. 3 years is not acceptable. Council member has been putting pressure on the city manager's office as well as the director of Public Works and the PRNS department for a very long time. They had first told us a timeline that it would be done early this year with the bid going out in October. That never happened. And so we agree with Herb that the community deserves an explanation as to why this has taken so long. So we'll be working with Los Paseos Neighborhood Association to schedule a meeting with Matt Canup, who's the director of Public Works, as well as with John Cicerelli, who's the director of the PRNS, the Parks Department, so that they can come in and sort of have a conversation with the community and hear your concerns, grievances around the delays in this project. So Herb's gonna get me some dates and we'll move forward with that. The Martin Murphy fence. So that is something that we have been engaging the school district with for about almost a year now. I think it'll be a year this spring. So Tori O'Reilly, she works for the Parks Department. She is the person in charge of this. I actually have her phone number for those who are interested or who want to contact her with questions. She's been working on this, and she worked with the city attorney's office, and basically the city attorney's office has told us in no uncertain terms that the city of San Jose cannot accept liability for property that they don't own and manage. So some of the concerns that have come out of those community meetings, for those of you that were at those community meetings, was that Martin Murphy wanted the city to basically take on liability for the space in the after hours outside of school hours. The city is saying they can't legally, they're not willing to do that, and they won't do that. So Tori has been looking into joint use agreements from other schools and other places to see if there's some sort of agreement that we can model. Unfortunately, to date, she hasn't found any agreements that don't incur substantial cost on the city. And just given our budget and given our limited staffing, it's not something that's feasible at this point in time. She's going to continue working with the district to see if we can come up with an agreement that is mutually beneficial to both and hopefully cost effective to both entities, the school and the city. In the meantime, she will work with the school district to see if we can keep the field open through either the neighborhood association or through the homeowners association, which I think the school district was looking at doing it in anyways.
In the opinion of the district attorney's office, who then had the responsibility for the 40 years that the general public used that facility?
According to the city attorney's office, had someone
It wasn't
been
San
hurt,
Jose.
it wasn't the city of San Jose.
Right.
Because it's not our property, right? So if someone would have been injured or if there would have been a lawsuit or something, that it would have been the school.
Thank you,
So
Vanessa.
we're going to continue watching, we're going to continue working on this, working with the school. Our goal is obviously to maintain access for the general public during those hours. If you all have any ideas on how we can do that, or I know Mary's here, the school has any ideas of partnership, maybe joint costs, we'll figure it out. But for now, it's still in progress. It's a research project really for the Parks Department, but they're taking it very seriously and they're working on it.
Sign that says enter at your own risk.
Yeah.
So basically, I think
meantime-
what you're saying is that there will be no after-hours access because of
In the
the
meantime, right,
liability.
Look at this claim.
Unless the school's willing to take on that, unless, as they have been for the last, as Eric said, the last 40-some
I'm not sure
years.
they knew they had. They probably thought it
There's
was.
3 openings and it doesn't look like there's anything.
Yeah, so
Right.
it was my understanding, the last email that I saw, and I think Greg, you provided this update, was that they are working with the neighborhood association and the HOA, and they're not locking the doors at this point in time, so access is there now.
The district is hoping for a joint use agreement with the city. So the district will keep looking and the city will keep looking, and we're gonna try to exhaust every opportunity to keep those gates open.
Ranches, ranches.
Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you.
You're very welcome, and if you have any questions, you can contact me, and also I'll give you Tori's number.
I haven't
Great.
talked with
So
her.
she said that anybody who has any specific questions or ideas, feel free to contact her.
I'm going to help her find the joint use agreements.
Going back to homelessness. Jonathan's money is money is.
Give me a minute, brief thing.
What is the city's opinion, city council's opinion on the way he wants to solve it?
Right.
Putting everybody to rehab and.
That's great. Complex questions. And I'm here as a formal representative of the office of Councilmember Jimenez, so I cannot engage in conversations related to campaign. So on city time, I am not campaigning for Councilmember Jimenez. I am here as his representative, providing information about the work we're doing at City Hall. What I can tell you, as someone who's been at City Hall now for over 3 years, and someone who, in my prior experience, worked with disenfranchised communities, in providing legal representation to immigrants from all different countries, people coming here as refugees, I can tell you that there's no simple solution. If your plan is a paragraph long, it's probably naive and unrealistic, and there are so many complex issues related to homelessness and the needs of the unsheltered population that it's going to take much more than one city councilman to solve it. And Sergio, who I know very well, will tell you the same thing. He's not going to solve homelessness. He doesn't have the power to. He doesn't have the authority to. The city of San Jose doesn't. It's going to take extensive collaboration with the state, the county, the city, community members, nonprofit organizations, and everybody to bring in funds and resources to help those who are currently unsheltered.
Okay, what about those islands I'm talking about? 5 years ago it started and it's now stopping. The islands, those little,
Yeah.
they're dangerous. I mean, I almost rear-ended somebody a few years back because
Yeah.
somebody ran out getting
I
dollars.
can take that issue back
Thank
and
you.
talk to the Department of Transportation and see if there's anything we can do with that particular.
And I'll follow up on
statement.
that, because that's very
Yeah.
dangerous. And bring
To see,
property
to
value down.
get folks off. If you do see someone weaving into traffic, that is a call
Oh, definitely.
for the police. Obviously, that's gonna be probably a priority 2 or priority 3 call for them, so by the time they get out there, that same person might not be there, or they might, not be able to get out.
When we're talking about
Yeah.
cars whizzing by, that
Right.
thing is so small.
Yeah.
It just takes one of those rocks there, and that's stable. The guy, somebody put a temporary, milk cart, you've seen it out there, right?
And if it's the same person, the other thing that can happen is you can let me know and I can refer that also to homeless concerns.
That same person's been
And we
cited
can
on that
have
same thing
homeless
many times. People
concerns
come
come
back.
out and engage the person and see if they qualify for any kind of services. Mary?
Vanessa, on the transparency regarding the footage that Serge is putting forward, the city already captures footage and camera images, right? Like on, on the traffic lights have cameras on them.
Some of them do.
So
Some of the cameras though, that a lot of people have contacted the city for footage for traffic incidents because they want to send it to their
but what's
insurance.
Sergio's concern? What is he he's putting forward something
Right,
that
so it's a
requires-
surveillance ordinance. So the concern is that we want to be able to, for the city to be transparent when it does purchase equipment for surveillancing of citizens, so that citizens are aware of exactly what information, what data is being collected and how it's being used. At this point, there is no such ordinance. So for example, the San Jose Police Department in 2014 purchased a drone, but we don't know what they use it for. We don't know what data, what images they're collecting. We don't know, what that information is being used for. And so basically what it is once that ordinance is in place, is moving forward, there would be an open community process for when this type of technology is purchased through the city.
I see, thank you.
And then just really quickly, the Monterey Corridor update, we're still waiting on an MOU with Union Pacific. I don't have a timeline for it, but we're hoping that we have our attorneys in the city attorney's office and the UP's attorneys come to an agreement sooner rather than later. Once that MOU is in place, it will include regular cleanups along the rail corridor, graffiti abatement, and encampment abatement. What is that acronym? MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. So it's an agreement between the city and Union Pacific. As of right now, the cleanups have been very ad hoc. There hasn't been much coordination with Union Pacific, and it's been really hard to bring them to the table. Last year, the council member did a press conference, and we got some good media attention around UP not being a good partner and them being very negligent of their property, which actually led them to clean up a significant portion of the railway in San Jose. Unfortunately, they have not made it down to Monterey Bernal, but the city of San Jose is working with UP on that site because it's a site that some of it is on city property, some of it's on railroad property. The homeless concerns team has been out there 70 times, and they've engaged 20 individuals at that particular camp on Monterey Bernal. They are hoping to get people to voluntarily leave. Those that don't leave will be noticed for abatement within the next couple of weeks. For the Calms project, the city is working with Safer San Jose, which is the nonprofit organization run by ISA. The last update that I have for Safer San Jose and the Calms project is that 100 homes have received cameras, and the video footage is actually being used by San Jose Police Department to investigate a couple of crimes. So there have been some success stories there. The goal is to get these cameras on 300 homes. So if you are interested in a camera, what you need to do is visit safersanjose.com. So it's safersj.com. And you can fill out a request form, and they will come and evaluate your home. If you are on a corner where there is a good vantage point for the street, then you may qualify for a camera, and then they will install the camera in your home free of charge. There's also an opportunity for those who may not qualify for a camera through the project to purchase their own camera at a discount. So you can contact Safer San Jose as well for that, because those opportunities are available. The city of San Jose is no longer managing the project. The project is being managed completely by the nonprofit organization Safer San Jose. However, Safer San Jose is required per our grant agreement with them to report to the city on a quarterly basis of their accomplishments, how many homes they've installed the cameras, and any other, and how they've been using the funds. So the city is monitoring the project, but we're not implementing it. And then lastly, we have some events coming up. Tomorrow morning is our annual Wow Walk at Oak Ridge Mall. It starts at 8 a.m. It's an opportunity for folks to come to the mall. It's focused around senior health, but everybody is welcome. You show up, you get there at 8, you get a breakfast snack, and then you do rounds around the mall, and you get raffle tickets for every round, every walk that you do around the mall. There will be entertainment, prizes, and a resource fair with many different organizations and government agencies providing free resources and information to our seniors. So if you can come out tomorrow, the event starts at 8 a.m. I have some flyers here. And then next week on the 27th at 1 p.m. we're going to be doing a ribbon cutting at the Southside Computer Lab. So Councilmember Jimenez, is one of his budget priorities last year, was able to obtain $30,000 to get new equipment at Southside. So that equipment had not been updated in over 15 years. So now we have a brand new computer lab with up-to-date technology where they will be offering computer classes and gen-to-gen programming. So an opportunity for seniors to work with younger children. And then lastly, on the 29th.
How about younger children who work with the seniors?
That too. It's gen-to-gen, mutually beneficial. The kids learn from the adults and the adults learn from the kids, and it's a great opportunity to bring folks together. And then lastly, we are hosting this month on the 29th, Saturday, the Coffee with the Chief event. It's going to start at 10 a.m. at the substation. And we are requiring RSVPs for this just because we have a limited space. So if you haven't RSVP'd, I've got flyers here with our Eventbrite info on it. You can join us. The chief will be giving an update on the state of the department and be offering some information on just crime statistics and public safety across the city. And I am looking for volunteers. So if you're interested in helping, we need some folks to help us set up at 9 a.m. and help us break down immediately afterwards. So if you're available and you can help us, we'd really appreciate it. Just send me an email. Greg has my contact information. I'll leave some of my cards here.
What's the date?
It's Saturday the 29th.
Saturday, February 29th.
Yeah. So.
Leap day.
Yeah. It's leap day. So if you can help out and come an hour before or stay a little bit after to help us clean up, we'd really appreciate it. And then any questions?
Someone who's out of the loop because he works too much. Is there still a plan to staff the substation?
Yes, so we were able, Councilmember Jimenez was able to obtain an investment of $1.5 million to begin the transition of the academy outside of the substation. The biggest holdup is that we're currently looking for a new location to set up the academy and the training center. So right now, all of our new recruits are training at the substation. So we need to find an adequate location for them to move. With that money, the $1.5 million that we were able to obtain in the budget, plus some additional funds that came from the sale of the fire training center to Google, we're looking at creating a state-of-the-art training center for both our fire department and our police department. So we're looking for that facility. A few places have been scouted. There's somebody in the City Department of Real Estate working on this. So once we have a location and we purchase the property and either build a new structure or remodel a current structure that's there, the academy is going to move out, and then the substation will become fully operational.
I have a question. Before the substation was built, where was the training?
That was before my time. I know that it was opened up for training in 2008. And I think it was happening.
Evergreen was doing it.
Evergreen? Yeah. So.
Vanessa, we need to move.
Yeah. You know we're running short on time.
Yeah, we are. No, we're supposed to be done.
Yeah.
No, the meeting time's 7 to 8:45. 1.5 hours was never enough.
And I know we have a presentation ready. I'll take one more question.
One more question.
They had one more event, cleaning of the Elle Park.
Oh no, that's District 5, Emma-Cruche, the park. So I don't have those details with me, but I'm happy to look into that and get that for you.
Okay, it was something on the next door.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So without further ado, thank you for your patience. Lots of good information and questions, but we're gonna let Linden Skjeie, who's with the Environmental Services Department, and she's gonna be talking to us about recycling and neighborhood inspectors role, China's national source policy, which I can't wait to find out what that is. Go ahead.
And by the way, people, there's a restroom through this door here on the other side of the gym, if I need to use the restroom.
Regarding the snacks.
People need to stand up and stretch. You still awake?
We're gonna power through.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so I'm Linden Skjeie. I'm with the Environmental Services Department. I've been there for 21 years this coming month. And in my current evolutionary state, I'm in the communications division, and I like to talk to people about what we call recycle right. So we've heard some things about China and recycling, the sky's falling, the sky's not falling,
Can you hear?
and so forth. So
We can't hear you back here.
There's a mic if you want to use.
There is, I was gonna say, did we bring the mic?
Yes, we did. We have to turn it off.
sometimes I'm told I talk too loud, sometimes I'm told I talk too soft, and it always sounds the same. Testing.
A little bit better.
Now can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good.
All right, so, sky is falling. But it's not. Well, maybe not about recycling, maybe just a little bit. So let's clear things up and figure out what's going on. So, is there a problem? I mean, for a long
You can hold it
time.
up closer. Yeah, a little bit closer. Yeah, thank you.
God, I'm really shouting.
We're way back here.
For decades, we were sending all of our recyclable material, most of our recycling material to China. And this worked out really well because we just load it all on the ships and ship it over there, and then they'd load those empty ships up with goods and send them back to us, and it was a beautiful logistical thing. Except for a few little problems, which is the stuff that we were sending wasn't real clean. That was part of the problem. And China got tired of getting all this dirty material from us. And so a few years ago, they put the kibosh on it and said, we don't want your stuff anymore. And you're gonna have to figure out something else to do with it. And so we tried to start sending it to other countries as well in Southeast Asia. And then they were like, whoa, we can't deal with all this, and it's dirty still for us too. We don't want it either. And so, with China taking all that stuff, our infrastructure on this side of the Pacific sort of went by the wayside. So we don't have as much infrastructure here to process all this material, but we're starting to work on that. And some of those facilities are going to come online. So it's a problem that has a lot of different things to contribute to the solution. And I'm here to talk to you about the role that you need to play to get us there, because recycling carts contain non-recyclables. Anybody want to wager a guess about what percentage of the average cart has garbage in it?
Yeah.
0. 50%.
100.
33.5%.
She's close. Yeah, it's like between 25-35%. So that's a lot of, non-recyclables in the recycling cart. And the other part of it is that, with sort of the disposable culture that we've got now, there's just that much more waste going into both the garbage cart and the recycle cart to try and deal with. So we have a lot of different laws to deal with this. The big one was AB 939, which was enacted in 1990 to, set recycling goals for the state. And San Jose now has a zero waste goal. We've actually had it for quite a while now to achieve that by 2022. And we're hovering in the mid-60s in terms of how much stuff we're diverting. And there's more laws in the pipeline. There's always new laws coming up at the state level. And amazingly enough, at the federal level right now, there's like 3 or 4 laws that are bills that have been introduced to do with recycling and recycling education and so forth. So one thing to remember is that when you say you're trying something out, there really is no out. Okay, it's all going somewhere. So what are we can solve this, and what are the solutions? One is buy less stuff,
And if you do have to buy stuff that doesn't create waste. So like, you get yourself a reusable water bottle and, you know, use this instead of, you know, using disposable kinds of things. Go to the library instead of buying books. I need to shop my bookshelf at home instead of in the bookstore. And then recycle right. So really what the focus is of this. Am I still not holding it up high enough?
Yeah.
Okay. Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay. So the main thing that I want to emphasize is that we want people, when you're not sure about an item, whether or not it gets recycled, when in doubt, find out. And in our industry, we talk about wish cycling or aspirational recycling, where you have an item at home and you're not sure if it goes in the recycle bin or the garbage bin, and so you're like, well, I'd hate to think it just goes to landfill, so I'm just going to put it in the recycle bin and hope that, you know, they'll figure out what to do with it. We don't want you to do that anymore, because we really want to try and make the stuff that goes into the recycling cart what belongs there, and it's pristine and it's not going to make a mess. And so we have a handy dandy new website called San Jose Recycles. I'm sorry that's not bigger. That you can go to. It's sanjoserecycles.org, and I've got some stickers back there on the table. You can take a sticker and it's got that on it. And if we had Wi-Fi here, I was going to have us all get on our phones and look at it, but we can't do that tonight. So, but you see up there, I don't know if you can tell, but it says, underneath San Jose Recycles, it says, what do I do with? And so let's say you're not sure what to do with your dirty pizza box, or the plastic wrap that came around your toilet paper, or your pencils, or your, you know, whatever. This has over 300 items and counting in it right now. And so if there's something you're not sure of, you should be able to put it into that little box and it'll tell you where it goes. And we've also, under recycling guide there, we've got a section on garbage, a section on household hazardous waste, e-waste, recycling, junk pickup, and I think I'm forgetting something else, but I don't know. Oh, yard trimmings perhaps. And then we've got information about your collection services, so if you're wondering what day your stuff gets picked up after Christmas or whatever, it'll tell you that, and so forth. So this is a really great resource. You can get it on your phone, of course, and it'll help you know what goes where. But in terms of like the big things we want you to remember is no food or liquid should go in the recycling cart. So if you got takeout food and you've got a greasy plate or something that's still got some food on it or whatever, even if that item were some sort of plastic that could be recycled, it should go in the garbage bin. So no food soil containers, and people often wondering what do you do with that half empty or that empty peanut butter jar or whatever. You don't have to make things pristine. The material recovery facilities, or MRFs as we call them, that process our materials, they can deal with a little bit of, you know, stuff left. So if you've got a can of refried beans, you know, just scrape out the last of the beans and you can put that in your recycling cart. You don't have to use a bunch of water on that. You know, we want to be sensitive to that we live in a sort of drought-prone area, so we don't want people using a bunch of water to clean things out. And also the main things are, when in doubt, find out. No food or liquid or food soil containers in empty and scrape things. Okay, so that's pretty easy to remember. And then I've got some sort of more minor rules beyond that. One is no household hazardous waste should go in the recycling cart. So that's things like pesticides or herbicides or paint cans that aren't empty and dry, and especially not batteries. Batteries should not go in any garbage or recycling carts. The haulers have been saying that they've been getting these hot loads where a battery will go in the recycling truck and it'll get crushed and it'll start to, you know, it could cause a fire, and it can cause a fire at the MRFs as well. So those need to be disposed of through household hazardous waste, or I think maybe you can take them to Home Depot and so forth, I'm not sure. But ask in sanjoserecycles.org and they'll tell you. Another one is on the recyclables, you don't have to bag them up. In fact, if you put them loose in your recycling cart, it makes it easier for them to go through the conveyor belts and stuff at the MRF and get separated into the various materials that they are.
On that, the previous advice had been that you could recycle, cloth material, but it had to be in a bag.
Well, now, we don't want the cloth in the recycling bin, we want it in the garbage
So that's
bin.
a change.
Yeah, it's a change as of January 1st.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, so, and yeah, it's still better if it's in a bag, because it's sort of, it's what we call a tangler. And tanglers are things like, film, plastic bags, wire, hoses, rope, all those kinds of things. That's the kind of thing that, I can show you, maybe I can show you the video, I hope so. That's the kind of thing that gets wrapped up in the conveyor belts and stuff and stops it, and then they have to go out there and pull all that stuff out, and it's dangerous and it takes time, and also that's another reason that you would bag that. In fact, another thing that needs to be bagged, and they like it in clear bags, is shredded paper. So if you have a paper shredder at home and you want to put that in your recycle bin, put it in a clear plastic bag so they can tell what it is, and then it won't also get gummed up and stuff.
I put it in a bag that's not clear. It's translucent, and you can see it's shredded paper. When I write shredded paper on it, is that acceptable?
That's great.
Okay.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah.
So you're saying put cloth in bags, but you're saying it doesn't go in the recycling bin, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it goes in the garbage now.
Put it in a bag in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The all the garbage that is collected in San Jose, we have two different kinds of MRFs. There's a dirty MRF that processes garbage and whatever else happens to be in it, and there's a clean MRF that processes just the recyclables. And if you want to take a tour of a MRF, I recommend the clean MRF, because it doesn't smell as bad. But the dirty MRF that we have processes the material and takes out the recyclables as well. We don't like to emphasize that because we don't want you to think, oh, it doesn't matter where I throw it, because it's getting processed and the organics are getting taken out of that. So the food waste is getting taken out, and that's being taken down to a composting facility in Gilroy and turned into compost that's used in municipal landscaping and so forth. So.
I'm sorry, can I get a clarification on some of your, like, you can even buy at Costco a bunch of to-go cartons because you have a party. Mm-hmm. And they clean like new. Mm-hmm. So, but even though they've had food in them and they're clean, you can't throw them away?
Hey, if they're clean, it's fine. If they're not clean, yeah.
Okay.
And if it's donatable, like if it's cloth or clothing that's still donatable, we really want to encourage people to donate things or old appliances or old sports equipment or whatever. I did a little cart audit a couple of years ago in my neighborhood, and I opened somebody's recycling cart, and it had like 40 golf clubs in it. Seems like those could have been donated. And don't put golf clubs in your house. Okay, so anyway. I'll show you. Alright, so anyway, so here's some of the common problem items. The plastic film, so plastic bags cannot be put in the recycle bin. You can take them back to the store. Plenty of stores have a cart that you can put those in. Styrofoam, you all know that styrofoam does not go in the recycle bin. You don't take such styrofoam. So that goes in the garbage. And styrofoam, it's really important to be careful with that because it, it's like if it gets out of your cart and a car runs over it, then it starts to disintegrate into these little tiny pieces and all, and it's just a terrible litter, terrible marine pollution problem. What am I doing wrong? Oh, here comes my quiz.
Is this styrofoam?
Yes, sir.
That's not recyclable.
So that's garbage.
Correct. That's not.
So if you have small pieces of styrofoam, should you put them in a bag?
I think so, yeah.
How about this? Bubble wrap plus.
Okay, so this, can I hold it? this is, sort of a mixed media thing. So it's got paper on the outside and it's got bubble wrap on the inside. So the recycling, the MRF can't really deal with this. Because it's garbage, yeah.
Coffee pot, drink the coffee, rinse it out, because that's recyclable.
Okay, what do you guys think?
Yes,
Recyclable or
that one,
garbage?
yes.
No, recyclable is not.
Garbage.
It's not garbage.
How many think it's recyclable? How many think it's garbage? It's garbage.
Why is it garbage?
Because in order for this coffee cup to not disintegrate and bleed coffee all over you, it has a plastic liner. And that renders it non-recyclable.
So I have a related.
Which is why you want to hold up your reusable coffee cup. Have your reusable coffee cup, because you can use it hundreds of times.
So I have a related question. Milk cartons, are they recyclable now?
I believe so, yeah.
So I don't get that because they have
Plastic inside of it.
they have waxy coatings on the inside. So if they're recyclable, it doesn't make sense that something like that is not.
My memory is that they are recyclable, and I don't know why there's a difference.
It's all plastic.
But look up sanjoserecycles.org and check it out and see if I'm right.
Cardboard.
I can't remember all 300 items.
Yeah, you give me a big recycle bin, I'm gonna throw everything in it.
It's not recyclable.
Yeah, my trash can.
This can't be, because this is like film, it's like the plastic film, so,
Same with this, film.
same, yeah.
Even though it looks like aluminum, but it's got a film on it.
Do you have?
Thank you, Greg.
So
That's very helpful.
this is recyclable, it's just a box.
Visual aids.
Okay, it's nice if you can break these down. I was at a meeting last week with our haulers, and they were actually saying one of the problems that they're having these days is that if somebody has like a 55-inch television, they take it home, they install it, and then they just take that big box out and stick it up next to their recycling cart. It needs to be broken down into smaller pieces, like 2 foot by 3 foot pieces or something. And they're also putting it out there with those little pillows, those air pillows, and with the styrofoam in them. All of that stuff needs to go in the garbage cart, and the cardboard needs to be broken down.
So
Seriously?
Well, that's why you have to break it down.
the air pillows that come in Amazon that have the recyclable tag on them are not recyclable?
Okay, so you see, that's the film. I mean, it might be a type of plastic that's recyclable, but because it's a plastic film, that's one of those tanglers and all. And so let's talk about those triangles with the numbers in them. So there's like 7 different categories of plastic, like 1 through 7. And the ones that have the really good market still at this point are plastics number 1 and 2. Plastics 3 through 7 don't have a lot of markets. So we're still taking them. Apparently our haulers still have buyers for these materials, but those are the ones that are most problematic and have the least value when they try and sell it. So one thing I'm hoping that we see more of is like refill stores. So like when you go to Whole Foods, you can take your empty container for certain things and get it filled up. And there's actually a store off of San Pedro Square called Waste Zero, I think it's called. It's actually a little pop-up store in the parking garage, so it faces right onto San Pedro. I emptied out I finished a lotion bottle the other day. I took it there, I filled it up with their lotion, and so I'm just using the same lotion bottle again. And I actually wrote to Trader Joe's the other day to say, you guys need to have refill stations because they've got lotion and laundry detergent and nuts and all that stuff, and they haven't written me back. So if you guys are so moved, please join me in my crusades, because they actually are starting to work on all their plastic because their customers told them to. We have a lot of power in our pocketbooks, what we'll buy and what we won't buy, and the feedback that we give to people. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So back to the plastic bags. So you get the plastic bags from the store, and you want to bring them back to the store. Are you allowed to put other kinds of, like, for instance, the toilet paper, the plastic around the toilet paper? Are you allowed to put that in that kind of recyclables, or they just will take bags only?
You know, that's a question I have too, and I'm glad you asked it because I haven't gotten an answer to that yet. And I have seen people do things like peel the plastic film off the top of the hummus tub, right?
Right.
And then rinse that off,
Yes.
and then put that in with that stuff. And I don't know if that's kosher for them or not.
So we should ask the
that's-
grocery store?
Maybe, yeah, I don't even know for sure if they would know.
I don't think they would.
Because I don't know,
Bags, okay?
and that may be in that wish cycling category.
Yeah, because we used to be able to put the plastic from the toilet paper in the recyclable bills, so now we can't, and so it's kind of like, "Ooh, what do we do with it?"
Yeah, well, I would say if it's clean, you could try it, and I will
But
try
then
to
we're
find.
doing the wish thing.
I know, I feel like I'm being contradictory, my apologies. I will try to find out and I'll let Greg know.
Yeah.
So you can pass it on. Go ahead.
Why is it giant cardboard is not recyclable? What if I cut it?
It is recyclable. It's just that they don't want you to put out a giant piece of it next to the recycling cart. It needs to have been broken down and put in the recycling cart.
It fills their garbage can. If you put the whole thing, they gotta try to put it in, it takes time. So we cut it down for them by 2x3 or 2x4.
Okay, then that's
And they
okay,
can
right?
get in there.
Yeah.
And you can still put it on the side then, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they like you if you would tie it, if it's like 10 or 12 pieces, tie it together.
It's easier for them to handle.
So that it's easy for the guy to.
Put it in another box.
So
Put it in a plastic bag. Pack it in styrofoam.
So why can't we, I got this big giant, tub, and you can throw everything in it, just people fill that way. I have my pizza boxes, but it has the insert, so it cleans it out, clean cardboard, maybe. The recycle police come around, oh, you got a ticket here or whatever. But I mean, it's so
The
big of
dreaded
a,
non-collection
yeah, I mean,
notice.
you guys have cut everything out that we thought that was recyclable. So I got a big tub of nothing, and I throw, a few things in now that I can do. And not, the batteries, like in Oakland, we can put a bag on top of our recycle bin and they take it. Making it easier for the people to get rid of them.
Not a plastic bag.
You have to use a plastic bag.
Clear.
Because it's got acid coming out of it. Something to hold it, but they do that and they'll take it. You put it on top of your bin and they take the batteries instead of getting them in the tubs, because you're right, if lithium battery catches on fire, you've got a major fire going on.
Right.
So maybe if they could put a bag on there, at least a small bag on the big tub would be fine.
I'll take that back to them.
Yeah, I mean, it makes it easier for people to get rid of them, not just throw them in the garbage
Yeah.
or throw them in there, so.
Yeah, although I will say I would not hold my breath on that one.
Well,
If you have those free AAA batteries, and you say take it back to Home Depot, they're gonna wind up in the trash. No one's gonna go to Home Depot with free AAA batteries. It's how often do I go to Home? Well, okay, not me, but how often do most people go to Home Depot just to take batteries down?
Target has Target has a bin at the end.
Right, and then they leak, and then, yeah.
Good, yeah, so use Target. Well, if you're gonna be stockpiling them at home, just make sure that you tape the ends of them. Because if they're all together in something, that you don't want them to, it's like, together like that. Okay, did you have a question? No, good.
Yeah. So then, I have a garbage bin for garbage and one for recyclables and this plastic bag. So when I put things that are recyclable, I should put in a plastic bag. So what you're saying is,
Empty out the bag.
just dump it in?
Sure. Yes, sir.
Now, your recyclables, are you working in conjunction with the garbage folks? Because in the past, we've got the big spiel that all the landfills were filling up, we're putting too much trash. Now it seems, and so Pendleton was going this way, we recycle a whole bunch of stuff. Now you guys are saying, we don't want this, we don't want that, we don't, put it all in trash. are we gonna give the same spiel again that we're
No,
overflowing?
that's not exactly what I'm saying. I'm trying to say that we've always had the same stuff that's recyclable, and we've always had the same stuff that's garbage. There's been very little change in that, other than like me saying that the textiles need to go in the garbage now. And what we wanna make sure is that you adhere to that. You know, that the garbage goes in the garbage bin, and the recyclables go in the recycling bin.
I understand that, from the consumer viewpoint, it is terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, people, that's something that, what do I do with this box because it's got a little plastic on it? How do we know, except to go to your website and be honest with you? I gotta go in and tell them to close up now or to go.
Well, you can do it on your phone, and I do also have some recycling reference sheets. Sir, with the baseball cap, can you hold up the sheet in the very back? Okay, so he's got the recycling reference sheet, and so that tells you, yeah,
in Spanish.
yeah, I've got them over there, and you can pick those up, and those will help you as well. But, all right, go ahead.
All of that said, every single time I buy, something, and I have to pay California redemption money. And I have to pay that, I have no choice.
Right.
Because California tells me I have to, because I'm paying it because I'm buying that container.
Mhm.
So I go to the recycle place to recycle it.
Right, and get your redemption.
Get my money, but now they've closed those places. And there in fact is no place that I know of where I can go and get my money.
That's right, thank you for that question.
Now, the other thing is, right now, Costco is selling all their batteries cheaper. So, Costco, I've been saving my batteries that, my AA and AAA that don't work anymore, in a bottom drawer, nobody disturbs them. If I take that back to Costco, it makes sense to me that since they're selling all these batteries to all of us around here, they ought to take them back. I'm not talking about computer batteries or anything, just the ones that they sell from time to time.
Well, that's, you're echoing something that a man said last week at my last neighborhood association meeting, which was, we were talking about plastic, and he's like, why did we, how was it allowed for us to get into this situation? And plastics is a really good example of that, because, you know, plastics really started to come into vogue in the 1950s, and you all probably remember the crying Native American going down the waterway with all the garbage.
Very effective commercial.
And only you can prevent litter and keep America beautiful and all that stuff. So the plastics industry realized that this was going to be a big waste problem, and they did not want to have to take responsibility for that. So what they did was this whole big campaign to put it on us, the consumers. You know, you have to prevent litter and all this stuff, and sort of keep people from pointing the finger at them of, you're creating these products that create all this litter. And so there's actually a group that was started in California that's now national called the California Product Stewardship Council. And their whole thing is to try and create these product stewardship programs, or these take-back programs, that make the industry responsible for end-of-life management of that product. So there's a carpet stewardship program now, there's paint care, which is a paint program, and you know, they're working on different things. They're looking at things like solar panels, the plastic filters on the cigarettes and stuff like that, because we need to be, you know, dealing with this stuff in the design phase so that it's not creating this waste stream on the other end. And it's a closed loop thing so that these materials go round and round, as opposed to having a one shot through the economy and then into a landfill or something. So that kind of thing is underway, and it's too bad that it didn't really get underway a long time ago. Product stewardship, design for environment, design for end-of-life management, the California Product Stewardship Council. So, there's several bills at the state level that are related to that right now. Yes, ma'am?
Does your company ever go to places like Costco and try to get them to be more responsible?
Well, I work for the city, I don't work for a company.
Does the city ever go to Costco and say, hey guys, let's lower your footprint?
Well, I mean, the city has done things like implemented a plastic bag ban. And after that happened, the amount of plastic bag litter that was out in our community greatly diminished. And we've done a styrofoam ban, a food styrofoam ban. But it's hard for us to impact, yeah, I mean, Sony or, all that. And the city has an environmentally preferable procurement policy, and we've done a lot to try and identify, what are we using that's making a big waste stream? Is there something that we can substitute that with? And I encourage you all to, remember your pocketbooks, because you have a lot of power to change what companies are going to do. If you refuse to buy things, if you go to the zero waste store and get your stuff there and bring it home in your own packaging, or use now they're selling toothpaste that's just powder, so it's not coming in a tube that ends up getting discarded. There's bamboo toothbrushes now. I got some floss the other day that comes in a reusable floss container, so I just have to put the new floss in there and don't keep ending up with a little plastic thing. So I really encourage you to consider what you can do as consumers as well.
So can you talk about this, where do you take
The beverage containers?
right that we're paying for money on?
So I know that this is sort of a long URL, but if you Google like Cal Recycle, that's the name of the California Resources Department, and then put in beverage container recycling centers, you'll probably come to this site, which I cannot get because we have Wi-Fi right now, but it'll take you to a site where you can put in your zip code and it'll tell you what outlets are in your area where you can still take.
And it sounds like the group knows that there's one close by, is that true?
Well, there is one, is not close by.
So we're spending all this gas to reach one of those.
That's story.
Oh, come on, okay, so then we put them, so what if we give up the money we're paying the great state of California for every aluminum can we buy, and we put that in our recycle bin?
Mm-hmm.
Then the aluminum is getting pulled aside, and our city of San Jose is getting some benefit from that aluminum?
Yeah, we're getting a little bit of benefit.
Did it come off my tax bill? Just kidding.
So your recycling hauler gets the redemption value for those things. And just a note about like plastic versus aluminum. Aluminum is a great element. It's a great substance. You can recycle that over and over and over. It doesn't degrade, so you have to recycle it into lower and lower quality things. That's not the case with plastic at this point. Plastic, when you recycle it, it gets recycled into something of lower grade and stuff. So wherever you can buy something in aluminum, I recommend it. In fact, you can find bottled water in aluminum bottles as opposed to plastic bottles. So, have you had enough?
She's hoping.
I mean, I've sort of talked about these, but consider not buying stuff, reuse things, like water bottle. Oh, I know what I want to tell you. So one thing that's kind of interesting that's happened recently is the state of California passed a law that went into effect on January 1st, AB 619. It says that if you take your own Tupperware container to a restaurant, you can use it for your doggy bag. Okay, so you don't have to use theirs. So can I move that plastic, this thing, for a second? So like, if I go out for ramen, this is what I get. So now when I go out for ramen, I take the one I've got at home, and I use this for my leftovers as opposed to getting yet another one. So my husband and I, we now have one of those little Lululemon bags, and it's got my Tupperware in it, and it's got cloth napkins in it. What's so funny?
No, it's brilliant, I love it. My husband, you'll need it when you go out to dinner with me. That's great.
Well, my husband was a little bit the same way, and I was like, do we have that bag? And if you get takeout, you can do the same thing. The restaurant has to have proven to county health that they've got hand washing procedures or whatever if they're going to be touching your container. But when you think about it, when you go to Starbucks and you've got your reusable cup, all they say is take the top off. you know, and then you're good to go. So it's just sort of expanding that mindset to more than just your coffee. So anyway, I'm really excited about AB 619. I'd love to see people start going to restaurants and saying, I have my own Tupperware or whatever.
Cool it.
I just have to say that I think Greg and Karen and Barbara and others, we should not bring bottled water to these meetings anymore.
I endorse that.
No, seriously, I
There you
think
go,
that's,
just use one of these.
I think that's really important.
Just use these.
I endorse that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will consider.
We'll make that happen.
Yeah, Costco gives it to us.
Let's not talk plastic. All right,
Can you talk about the last thing you talked about? Can you talk about the China sword policy?
China sword. Well, that was what I started with.
Yes, you did, where were you?
You already talked about it?
Just basically that
Yeah.
China doesn't want our stuff anymore.
Okay.
Oh,
And, you know, part of it is that on this side of the ocean, we've got pretty good infrastructure for dealing with this stuff. So per capita, the amount of plastic waste that ends up in the ocean from this side of the Atlantic is less than it is on that side of the Atlantic because one, they were getting all of our stuff, and two, they, you know, when they couldn't deal with it, they didn't have anything to do with it. So most of the plastic that's coming into the ocean is coming from that side, the Asian side of the Pacific. So anyway, China said we don't want this stuff anymore, and
So we're not doing it.
well, we are sort of from the standpoint that most of that plastic came from us.
And they put it in water.
Yeah, because they don't have the infrastructure for it. All right.
Alright.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I deputize you all. You have to go out and tell all your friends. All right, tell them San Jose recycles.org. And so what are the three things? What's number one?
No clue.
When in doubt,
Find out.
find out.
Right.
And what do you do if it's got food on
Garbage.
it? Right, empty and scrape, and no food soiled containers. Thank you. Thank you for staying to all this.
So for those of you that are still here, we're doing a raffle.
It's not a raffle, it's a drawing.
A drawing.
A raffle.
Okay, sorry, it's a drawing.
Yeah.
To be politically correct here.
This is the one.
Thank you for your patience and for staying. I know we went over, and thank you so much for staying late. So we're gonna do the wait.
Okay, what we're drawing for is an emergency lantern and flashlight to make your home safer in case of a power outage.
Aaron needs that.
Okay, and I had one of our members draw a ticket, and it's the ticket that ends in 508.
508. 508. Service contest.
That's me. It's, you know what, give it to me.
Okay, all right, here, draw another one.
Okay, that's nice of you.
Sure. I'll just go to Goodwill.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
505.
There you go.
All right, the lucky winner. Now you'll be prepared.
Thank you.
Thank you.